Hey guys, this is Two-Side from Village Comics. This is going to be the first of a few Kickstarter how-to videos, is basically that I'm going to be doing over the course of the next month and a half or so. That'll be free for people that are visiting the Patreon page. All I ask is that you consider becoming a patron and try and back the Kickstarter that I'm launching on April 5th for the Super Cats Halloween book. Basically, this is a crazy time. As I sit here, my son is napping upstairs and my wife is working upstairs during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I kind of want to add that in here just so keep it on record that this is what's going on while I'm trying to do all this. So any help you guys can give, any questions you want to ask during this, you can post them here on YouTube. You can post them on Facebook or on the Patreon page. I'm kind of keeping an eye on everything as I'm doing this video, so I'll try to get back to your questions if you have them during these videos, and if you post them later, I'll try to pick them up for the next one. I try to do these every few days, or at least one of these types of how-to videos every week, sharing kind of what I'm doing with the campaign leading up to the actual launch. So right now I have actually already built the bones of my campaign. The first thing I tend to do is kind of build the basics and make sure that my campaign is completely approved well in advance. So I pick a day. I have picked April 5th about a month and a half out, and started to already kind of tell people that this was the month and day that the campaign was going to be launched. So the idea behind that is to just kind of have a set in stone date. And by having everything pre-approved, I don't have to be scrambling if for some reason the project would not be approved. I have done enough of these now that I don't know if I'm pre-approved or what, but it's essentially instantaneous approval usually for my campaigns at this point. So it's already been approved. I don't have a video on there yet. I don't have all the artwork on there yet. I just have essentially built from, if you're familiar, I'll talk a little bit about it. But the breakdowns of how I'm pitching, the subtitles, the titles, all of the rewards. I started building those a while back, so I know, so I can do all my research on how much it's going to cost me for everything and how much exactly I need to raise. That number may change a little bit before I launch, just because I'm trying to raise some money to knock that number down before the 5th. So I had already planned to kind of have this around the $3,500 range. It might be a little higher than that now that I don't have conventions to make money at in the next 3 weeks. But it's going to be it's not going to hit $4,000. Like, the plan is 3,700 or less at this point. I factored everything in. You have to do your research and make sure the numbers are going to cover everything, including shipping, printing, all of your reward creation. If that's all stuff that you need money for, you have to make sure it's going to be there. And I always buffer in 10% for Kickstarter / Amazon fees that are taken out. I've started to build my story. I've started to add in some artwork as I get it, and I'll be adding more as I get it from the artist. And then, I've gone through the process of getting all of the all of the things that Kickstarter needs in order to approve the project. So you have to have your identity confirmed in there. You have to have a bank account, and you have to have a payment source, so that if for some reason there's funds that aren't charged back, you have like a buffer. They have a buffer to take from. It's never happened to me. Always just play it safe and make sure you're going for a goal that makes sense for what you're doing. So in these early stages, I still have about 2 weeks before everything launches. I'm essentially going to be pre-campaigning, which is sharing art, sharing my launch date, talking about the project, and just kind of trying to build buzz about everything leading up to that launch date. It might be a little different, and things might not go as great as they have gone for me in the past on launch day, mainly because of everything that's going on. But I just feel that it's essential to keep some normalcy and try to do this even though it might not work. So I know some people are strapped for money, and this is not a high priority on people's radar, but I feel like um, people need something else to be paying attention to. And you're at home, you're watching, any number of streaming services, but this will give you something new. So continue to join me with these, and we can talk more about the process and about what it takes to get a Kickstarter made and funded. So with the pre-campaigning, I try to utilize every avenue that I can. I'm in a number of groups on Facebook. I use my Twitter and I use Instagram here and there. I probably should focus on that a little bit more, but I only have so much bandwidth to give, so I try to do what I'm familiar with. I was on a podcast talking about how to survive and adapt with everything that's going on. So I shared that. I talked about the Kickstarter coming up a little bit there. So any way that you can kind of build buzz until the launch, I think pre-campaigning is very important. I mean, Kickstarter has embraced this as well, because they now have a promotion function in when you finish uh, when you finish creating a project, you get uh, like a prepare for launch page, kind of. And this is kind of for pre-promoting. So they actually have a section, I think, that's like coming soon now too. And so I've done this before all this was before they added this promotion function in here, but they have a link, a project URL you can use for each individual campaign that ends up, even that link will end up sending you to the live page eventually. And last time I ran a big campaign, over 30% of my backers came from people that used the pre-launch URL. So it's just proof that pre-campaigning is very important. Just get the word out, start building your press release. You can even use that same link in your press release, because you're not going to have the real actual link until you launch. But this link will work even after you launch. So I'll be starting to share all this information with the various blogs and web pages that I have worked with in the past, other podcasters, and putting it up on my different social media accounts so that people can preview it. And another thing about the pre-campaigning, and this is a big one, people people like to be involved in the process. So this gives you a chance to basically ask them if they're happy with what they're seeing before you launch, so that you can, if there's something that you want to do that's different, you can change prices, or you can alter how the project is being presented to the audience, and you can kind of ask people to give you feedback before the campaign. That way you're not scrambling, the week that you launch, after you launch, with people saying, oh, well, you could have done this and that, or maybe this would have worked better. You knock out a lot more of those what ifs if you just use that pre-campaign URL and share it and ask for feedback. People are willing to give you feedback, and there's a lot of indie comic groups and Kickstarter comic groups out there that will give you the feedback. All it takes them is a couple minutes to look at your project, and a lot of people are familiar with these things, or they have ideas that might, serve you better after you launch. So I just try to do as much of that pre-campaigning as possible at this point. And I try to kind of piece the things into the campaign as I get them. That way I'm not spending an entire day at the end, right before launch, trying to build the Kickstarter. So the more I have done leading up, then the last couple of days before the Kickstarter, I'll just be fine-tuning and making everything pretty and dropping in the last couple images and maybe the video and all that. But just, the most that you can get done prior to that last couple days before the campaign launches, the better. And I see this time and time again. Pick a date and stick to it. Get ready early. Just it drives me crazy when people are just like, hey, I'm thinking about launching a Kickstarter in a couple of weeks, or I'm going to launch it tomorrow, or just prepare for it, lead up to it, build up. Nobody, I think of it this way, okay? If you go to a movie theater, you're not going to go. Not most people aren't just going to go to a movie that they didn't know anything about, and they come to the movie theater and like, oh, that sounds intriguing, I'm going to go to that. That's a small fraction of people. Most people, you're just going to see a trailer early. You're going to know about the movie in advance. You're going to be excited about that release date, and you're going to want to go on that first weekend. Treat it the same way. Like, you need to build up anticipation of this product and of this book before you launch it. If you're launching 2 days after you say anything to anybody, most people aren't even going to see that post, and most people are not going to jump on your project that's been scrambled and put together in no time. Like, put the time and effort into it. Put as much time and effort into it as you want people to look at it. Like, if you want people to spend time on your page and invest money in your project, your product, and your book, you have to put more into it than just throwing it up in a couple of days. I think, like, take your time with it. Make sure it's everything that you want it to be, and reach out for that feedback so that it's everything that the people that are on that platform want it to be too. That's why it's there. That's why they do the preview project stuff. There's even a ticker now. I see that they have a pre-launch page that you get, and it also just gives you like a notify me on launch button, so that people will actually get an email like when you're going to launch. So this is just another way to have that certainty on day one. So utilize what they've given you and make sure you prepare, do the pre-campaigning. Don't waste the last minute to do everything. If I'm sure there's other things that I do prior to the campaign that I will think of at some point here too, but these are like the essential things that I do every time. And put the time, all the more effort you show in building your campaign, it will show when you launch. People will recognize that. If it looks like one sloppy page of wording with a couple images, like you're showing people how much you care about the project with how much effort you're putting into creating this page. So that's kind of all I have for the pre-campaigning right now. I'm going to continue doing all of this stuff leading up to the 5th, and I'm going to be sharing more artwork and stuff, and I'll do another one of these videos that's kind of about the pre-campaigning again too, like breaking down what I do in that last week prior to the launch on the 5th. But I kind of can keep doing these videos as I actually progress through this Kickstarter too, so you get an idea of where I am, how it works. And even with me doing it this many times, I'm doing a 30-day campaign, which is not something that's ideal to me. I'd rather be shorter. So we'll be talking about like what I'm doing throughout the 30 days to promote, and talking about the peaks and valleys of backers and how things tend to slow down in the middle. And so just stay with me, ask questions, join my Patreon. Even if you just follow and don't put any money in, that's fine for these videos. But if you can, please support me. All the money that I raise from Patreon goes directly to artists working on my books. That's what it's there for. All the money that goes to my Kickstarters goes to creating books. I am not using this to profit. My profit comes from selling the books on my end. I always build my crowdfunding and Patreon and everything to be about creating more and paying artists and paying for printers and all the bottom line work that needs to be done to make things. I don't profit unless I'm selling, which makes it even harder for me right now because I cannot go to shows and sell. So if you guys can throw anything in to help continue these books, to help me continue making these videos, please do. Even $1 to the Patreon gets you access to everything. All my books right now are available free on the Village Comics Patreon. If you're seeing this through the Patreon page, that's cool. If not, it's just patreon.com/Village Comics. And that you can find all these how-to videos. I have a series before this that was started that was me talking about writing in the different aspects of writing and working with artists virtually, because I've always worked that way at this point. So if you want creative insights, if you want insights about Kickstarter, keep following me here on Patreon. And please, please, please make sure to check out that Kickstarter pre-launch page. Hit the notify me button and back us on day one if you can, so that we can get this next comic made. That's it for now. I'll be doing these again, but thank you again for anybody that is seeing this and checking out all the different stuff we have going on. I'll keep talking to you guys throughout this crisis and throughout my campaign. Hopefully this gives you guys something different to listen to and different to interact with other than the mess that is going on right now. So thanks again. I'll talk to you guys later.